Just here chatting with wildlife photographer Tom Sterling. Tom is from Jackson. He's on the Audubon lecture circuit, does a terrific job with nature films. Tom, we were talking about Isle Royale. Now, Isle Royale, most of our viewers are down here in the lower peninsula, but Isle Royale is way up here off the Keweenaw Peninsula, very close to Minnesota and Ontario. A lot of people are interested in the big game that is on Isle Royale. Now, where did the moose come from?
Well, the moose came across from Ontario. They swam across. This is a 17-mile strait here, and they came across in the 1920s and 30s. Before then, there were just caribou on the island.
Caribou?
Yes, and the caribou are gone now because the moose have sort of replaced them they're a bigger animal, and the caribou have been gone several years now.
Well, what about the wolves?
The wolves got there in the 1940s by going across the ice. One year,
same place?
1 year the ice froze all the way across that 17-mile strait, and the wolves walked across. And so now Isle Royale is very famous for its wolf pack. There are about between 24 and 30 wolves on the island. And if you're extremely lucky, you may be fortunate enough some morning hiking the island to see a sight like this, a gray wolf just exploring the coast of Isle Royale. And of course, most people think that wolves are carnivores, and they are, but basically they eat almost anything.
Well, you mean even berries?
Everything. They're omnivores like we are, sure.
Do they generally travel in packs?
Well, they travel in families, and we usually call a family, a mom and dad and the kids and a couple aunts and uncles, a pack. In the wintertime, you might get two families together. And in a large group like that, they have better luck in pulling down a large animal like a moose.
Of course, from Memorial Day to Labor Day, an awful lot of visitors go up to Isle Royale. It's a national park.
Yes, Isle Royale gets about 10,000 visitors a year. And most of the people that come here to the island are hikers. You can go to the island and stay in the lodge at Rock Harbor. There used to be a lodge down at Wendigo, but the Park Service has closed it down now. But you can go to Rock Harbor and just stay at the lodge there in one of the cabins and hike in that vicinity every day if you like. But most people go there, put a pack on their back, and just explore the trails. There are 168 miles of hiking trails on the island, and there's no more beautiful spot in the state of Michigan than Isle Royale National Park to really get a sense of and a feeling for wilderness.
Do you think that a lot of the people who go there, even though they've been told and they know that the wolves are going to stay far away from them, don't you think when you lay there at night by the campfire thinking you're on an island with about 36 wolves, doesn't that put some sort of concern in people's minds?
I think that's part of the excitement of going there. It's one of the few places left in this part of the world which you can actually go and perhaps not see a wolf, because actually there's only about one sighting each summer. But your chances of hearing wolves are much greater. And there are 2 or 3 spots on the island where you have a better chance than others of actually hearing wolves howl at night. And of course, howling is just a social thing that families of wolves do to communicate with other families. It's nothing to be afraid of. It's just something to enjoy and appreciate, a feeling for wilderness.
What about the moose? How do they survive on the island?
Well, the moose are having problems because even though the wolves prey on them, they're still not able to fully control the moose numbers. So the moose numbers have grown now to over 1,000 animals. Wow. There are more moose per square mile on Isle Royale than any place else in North America. So if someone wants to see a moose, I always send them first to Isle Royale National Park.
What are your chances of seeing a moose?
Excellent, excellent. In fact, you almost have to put a blindfold on and hike that island not to see moose. They're just everywhere. Now here we have an example of what the moose are doing in many areas because of the abundance of moose. They're beginning to overbrowse, and this is balsam fir, a choice food of moose, and you can see they've literally eaten that small one right off. In many areas now, the moose have eaten the low browse, and they're eating as high as they possibly can. The wolves aren't keeping them down, so we're heading for a crisis there with moose.
What's going to happen?
Starvation. It'll be a natural control, which will take over. There are other things that have also happened. They've found that the cows have begun, in some areas, either they don't have a calf. In good areas where there's a lot of food, say on the mainland, cows will normally have 2 calves. On Isle Royal, you'll rarely see a cow with 2 calves, and some years she won't have a calf at all. This isn't because she isn't bred. She is bred, but what happens is because she has a reduced food supply, she needs all the food for herself, so she resorbs her fetus. And this is a method of population control in moose numbers. But even with those controls, someday, within the foreseeable future, there's going to be a die-off of moose on the island because of overbrowse. An obvious answer to this would be to set fire to the island. But and of course, fire is a natural phenomenon in nature, and what it helps to do is it burns off the mature forests, and you have secondary stuff coming in, secondary growth, like the alders and the young balsam fir, and this is food for the moose. So if a good forest fire got started on Isle Royal, they should let it go. But of course, you have a problem there in that you have hikers on the island if it's during the summertime, and you have some human habitation like Wendigo and Rock Harbor, so fire would be a problem there. So the Park Service is in a real dilemma as to what to do about the food for the moose.
Those moose, the way you get in with your close-up lens, they certainly are strange-looking critters. You know, I bet if before the rutting season, if moose were to fix each other up with dates, I bet you the big selling point is, hey, but she's got a great personality.
You know, it's a funny thing. My wife never thought that moose were very pretty animals until she'd seen one up close like this, and now she's a great fan of them, and they're extremely beautiful creature. And very large. Gosh, we're looking at these cows here weigh 700-800 pounds, and a bull will get up to 1,400.
Are they related to bison or what?
No, they're in the deer family. They're the largest member of the deer family in North America.
Boy. Tom, as usual, those are outstanding nature pictures. By golly,
Glad you enjoyed them.
Terrific job. Well, you're going to be back with us in a few weeks with a story on deer,
By all
bear,
means.
and wolves. Some interesting and exciting things from Tom Sterling, wildlife photographer from Jackson. He does a bit of lecturing in Michigan as well as around the country. Hopefully you'll be able to see him sometime this year.